Hi, I am here today to chat with you guys about alternatives to dryer sheets. I don't know if you've been in tune with the last couple posts that we've had, but we've been talking about alternatives, reasons why you might want to, all the chemicals that are emitted through our dryer when we use fabric softeners and dryer sheets and the like. So if it's not something that you haven't switched out and you're worried about having to buy something or go shopping for something, I am going to give you some ideas of super simple things that you already have in your home that can help with this. I live in Wisconsin. It is cold and dry, 8 to 9 months out of the year. So we know what static is like up here. So the dryer sheets were something that I always had grown up with, and I had kind of gotten used to the smell, and so I was like, oh my gosh, like we can't use dryer sheets anymore. What am I going to use? Like we have to do something to help with the dryness that we are experiencing and our clothes all sticking together and losing socks and all that sort of thing. So what we started doing, and I'm going to give you a few different things. I had said 4 things. I do have 4 things, but I actually have 5. Okay, so you get a bonus one. The first one is to use reusable wool dryer balls. And I have some here. These are the ones that we have. I throw these right in the dryer. There's some people who can make your own, so if you don't have some, you can actually make them just by winding yarn. Again, this isn't something you're going to necessarily have in your house if you haven't already switched to this, but it is a really nice alternative. These ones have lasted me a really long time. I'll add some essential oils onto here, so whether it be lavender or purification, citrus fresh, pretty much whatever I'm in the mood for. And I don't always add it onto them right at the beginning of the dryer cycle. Usually, so my dryer has a little ding when it's done, so it has a little ding, and then I will go back and I will add a couple drops of essential oils to these and just fluff everything one more time in the dryer for like 10 minutes maybe within a low heat setting or no heat. And it just kind of freshens up the clothes and gives them that smell. So if you're looking for something that has that smell and you're really craving that, that's one way to get it. Another thing to do is if you don't have these, use 2 tennis balls. Tennis balls will work just as well. These especially work really well with towels and sheets that want to like wrap around each other and get all tangled up. I actually looked this up because I was like, why do dryer balls work? Like, what do they do for our clothing? And it kind of makes sense. So because they bang around in the dryer, they break up the clumps of clothing. So it's like something in there just to make it not all be in one big pile of clothes, of wet clothes. And that helps your dryer actually dry more efficiently. And when it dries more efficiently, it means you need less drying time. And the static or the dryness actually comes from over drying or running your dryer longer than it needs to be. And that will create a lot more static. So by using the wool dryer balls, you're actually shortening your drying time, which is going to save energy. It also saves time, right? And it helps to reduce that static cling that you have, and is a medium for adding the essential oils or adding some sort of wanted fragrance into your dryer and your clothing. I also have this other option, and these actually look really dirty. They are clean. They are just a little bit beat up from being in my dryer. I got these. These are actually Norwex ones. So there are these rubber ones. They work the exact same way. There's nothing super fancy. These ones have little knobs on them, you can see. Again, tennis ball will do the trick. And so if you don't have anything else, go ahead and try that and see how it works for you. Each of these will last, it says 2 to 5 years, and I think that just depends on whether this bugs you that they're dirty looking, whether these start to kind of break apart on you. And so if they do, just know that it's pretty normal to have to replace them after a period of time, but they don't have to be particularly expensive. They don't hurt your dryer. I actually looked that up too, like, because the one thing that they do is they sometimes can make, oh, sorry, the dog's shaking. They sometimes make the dryer sound louder. So it can like bang around a little bit. These ones, barely at all, but these ones, for sure, it makes my dryer louder. So just knowing that there might be a little bit more banging around, that's probably the only like negative or downside, even though I don't really see it as a huge downside. The next one, so number 2, is using white vinegar. Vinegar actually takes some of the buildup off of your clothing from previous softeners that you used or previous laundry detergents that you've used. So if you are actually working on transitioning out of using dryer sheets or using a more natural detergent without fragrances in it, my suggestion would be to use the vinegar as an option. I, again, like to add essential oils into mine. I've made these a few different ways, and I want you to know you can keep it simple or you can get a little bit more complicated with it, but there's varying versions of this, we'll say. The easiest one, you can actually just put the vinegar and essential oils into a spray bottle and just spritz the wet clothes, throw them in the dryer. Okay, easy enough. If you have concerns about spritzing the clothes directly, you could spritz the like a mismatched socks. Okay, so mismatched socks, you can spritz those and throw those in the dryer along with everything else, just knowing that they're just going to go through the cycle and they will help. Now, you don't quite get as much of it in there, so if that's not doing the trick for you, there's another thing that we've done is we mixed a half cup of vinegar with about 6 drops of essential oil. For me, I like that better because of the vinegar smell. I just want to cover it up a little bit. And I took, actually, this is a sandwich container, but you could also use a mason jar. So it doesn't have to be anything too fancy. Put your vinegar solution in there and then cut up like an old baby blanket, old t-shirts, those socks, those mismatched socks will also work for this. You could even use a sponge, even though a sponge will kind of break down in the dryer over time. And go ahead and put them inside your mason jar or inside your little container. Let it soak up the vinegar and you will actually have a pile of rags that are pre-moistened that you can just take a couple of them and throw them in your dryer when you put your clothes in. So if you're anything like me, you're gonna want something pre-made that is easy and right there so that you use it. I, again, usually will use these. I have used vinegar solutions in the past, and as long as it's sitting right there, I'll use it. And I like it. If I have to actually walk to the kitchen to get it, then I will normally just be like, oh, it'll be fine, I'll figure it out, that sort of thing. But know that you have this option as well if you're feeling kind of lazy. So yeah, it is really cool that actually I did learn that vinegar has more to it than just allowing there to be less static cling. This is something that you can add into your washing machine, but you don't want to add it with the detergent, okay? So if you were gonna add it in there, you would run your cycle, your normal cycle with detergent, and then during the rinse section, you would add your vinegar then. I am not that well timed where I know when that rinse cycle is going to hit in my washing machine. So you might have a little separate rinse container in the little pull-out drawer in your washing machine. If you have that, great, then you can go ahead and put it in there and it will just introduce it during the rinse cycle. Or you can also just the same use it during your dryer cycle. Either one will be fine, but don't mix it in with your detergent. Your clothes will actually come out oily. Okay, so you don't want to mix the two. You want to make sure that you only use the vinegar during the rinse. Okay, vinegar is a natural whitener, brightener, reduces odors, softens the clothes, and it actually preserves the color of your garments. So if you're worried about like a really black shirt or a really bright red, you don't have to worry about vinegar actually ruining your clothing. It's actually going to be a brightener for your clothing. And they actually even suggested that if you have a brand new shirt, it's your first time washing it, and you are concerned about fading, to soak your shirt in vinegar prior to putting it in the wash. So you'd soak it, rinse it out really good, then put it in the wash and do your regular load. That actually helped to preserve your clothing, which I did not know that before. I just learned that. I thought it was really cool. Then third thing you can do is you can add baking soda. This one I feel like is a little more complicated because you do have to add it into the washing machine, or that's where it's suggested to add it during the rinse again. No, you can add it in the beginning. Okay, so here's where it's complicated, and this is just for my dryer, so your dryer might be different. I don't have a top loader, I have a front loader, so all my stuff have to go in a tray, and I can't add baking soda, the clumpy baking soda, in with my detergent in there because it will get all clumped up just in the little drawer. If you have a top loader and you can open it up in the middle of your cycle, you can go ahead and you can throw it in there. Once there's water in there, you can throw the baking soda in there. A few things that baking soda does is it helps raise the alkalinity of the water, which means it kind of like softens the water. And when you soften the water, you actually make your detergent able to work better with less of it. So you're going to save yourself a little bit of money. Who knew laundry was so crazy, right? So much things to know. And then you can also add the vinegar in during the rinse cycle. So you can use both of them if you feel like you need to, if you need to boost the detergent that you're having, or if you're having issues with feeling like there's buildup on your clothing and that sort of thing. There are some tools just between those two things, which you probably already have in your kitchen. The fourth one, which is one that I actually just learned while I was doing this, so I have not tried it myself, is to use aluminum foil. So you pull off a sheet of aluminum foil and roll it into a ball, and it basically works the same or similar to the way a wool dryer ball, in that it will kind of get in there and break up the clothes in the clumps, but it also will reduce the static electricity. It takes this, like the static buildup, that charge, and it actually discharges it. So you can use that if you're still experiencing the static issue. So that was super easy. I also had seen a little tip and I haven't tried this either, but taking a safety pin and just pinning it to your wool dryer ball and throwing that in will have the same effect. So if this again is not helping with the static, don't give up on it. Try the safety pin trick. Like, there's a ton of people who like claim the safety pin trick is the way to go. And how easy is that to just be able to use the one product? You don't have to worry about it getting stuck in there. Foil, you can use the same ball for like 1 or 2 months. So depending on how much laundry you do, it's not like you always have to get a new sheet of foil and you're going to be spending more money on your laundry. Go ahead and reuse that thing. It's not like it's going to stop working. Okay. It might just get smushed and harder to handle and get lost in your laundry more over time, and that's why it would need to be replaced. Okay. Oh, and then the bonus one, number 5. So I had mentioned this before, that the static cling comes from over drying your clothing. So stopping your cycle short will stop it from over drying. Doing an air fluff at the end with less heat. So if you lower your heat on your dryer, it'd also be better on your clothing too. And then also you could just air dry them. If it is the summer, or if it is spring or fall and it's kind of easy to have them outside, go ahead and hang them up and let them air dry. I have a rack for some delicate type of things or sometimes some of my sweaters, I will just put them on a towel and I'll throw them over a chair, or I will put them over, take my laundry basket and flip it upside down and put it over that so that there's airflow. Know that you can always just air dry your clothing as well, especially if it's something that tends to get tangled and that sort of thing. I know all of my undergarments end up being air dried a little bit more, just to keep them from getting tangled in the dryer as well. So those are your tips. I hope you learned. I hope it was an interesting little thing for you, and good luck. I hope that by reading some of the things that you've really considered swapping out some of those products for your health, for your family's health. I just think that this is the easiest thing with things that you have right around your house. So zero hassle and a huge impact. If you're going to start anywhere, this is a really smart place to start. So, all right, you have a great day, and we will talk to you soon. Bye.